You think power is about being surrounded. Advisors, allies, friends, smiles at every corner, nods of approval, applause at your words, toasts raised in your honor. You picture the throne as a place of warmth, the crown as heavy yet shared. You're mistaken, deeply mistaken. The higher you rise, the lonelier you become. Not because others drift away, but because you make them. You have to. If you don't, the fall will be brutal. And falls are inevitable, except for those who surround themselves with fortresses, not of stone and steel, but of solitude and strategy. Silence, distance, calculation. That's the true seat of power. That's the lesson Machiavelli whispered to princes half a millennium ago, a lesson still followed by CEOs, politicians, generals, monarchs, anyone who holds power and wants to keep it. Have you ever wondered why the most powerful people are always so alone? It's not because they're broken or callous. It's because they've studied the rules. And rule number 1, trust is a luxury you can't afford when your neck is on the line. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you saw a world leader, a billionaire, or a commander laughing without restraint in a room of equals? Not in rehearsed photo ops, not in the spotlight for the press, but genuine laughter, raw vulnerability, true trust. You haven't. It doesn't happen. Not at the top. You may call it sad, and maybe it is, but sadness doesn't keep you alive. Strategy does. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to advocate kindness. He wrote it to teach survival. And survival at that level doesn't allow for accidents. It demands deliberate isolation. Think of it this way. Every person around you might be holding a dagger. Their smiles don't matter. Their professions of loyalty, let them prove it, but even then, believe cautiously. Loyalty is fickle. It bends to opportunities, threats, or greater rewards. You think this sounds cynical? Good. Cynicism is armor for those in power. Naivety? That's a blade pointed at your unguarded heart. That's the attire of the fallen. Let's turn back time. Florence, 1530. A man sits in exile, stripped of authority, as the Medici family tightens its grip on the city he once served. His name, Niccolò Machiavelli. He's not scribbling philosophy, nor is he penning ethics. He's crafting a manual, a survival guide for leaders who refuse to end their days in a ditch with their throats cut. In chapter 26, he releases his most famous axiom: "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." You've heard it before, everyone has. It's quoted endlessly, but rarely understood. This isn't about cruelty, it's about control. Love is unpredictable, fickle. Fear, however, is reliable. Love asks for favors. Fear obeys commands. Love might whisper behind your back. Fear watches your back and its own. This is the cornerstone of leadership's fortress. Walls built not to keep enemies out, but to remind allies that you're no longer one of them. Here's the twist. Those who rise to power understand this instinctively. They don't need Machiavelli's words. They embody them. Observe any CEO after mass layoffs, any president weathering a scandal, any general betrayed by their closest confidants. Do they cry? Do they rage? Do they explain away their pain? They stand alone, silent, composed, not because their hearts are cold, but because showing vulnerability marks you as weak, and weakness is an open invitation for predators. Power isn't about charisma or eloquent speeches, nor handshakes and photo ops. Power is restraint, knowing when to speak and when to disappear, letting silence do the talking and leaving others unsure of your thoughts. Because the moment they think they truly know you, who you are, what you're planning, is the moment they begin plotting your downfall. Take Julius Caesar as an example, not the salad, but the man. He walked into the Roman Senate flanked by friends, senators, allies, the men he fought beside, laughed with, shared wine with. And what was his reward? 23 stab wounds. The last thrust came from Brutus, his protege, his symbolic son, the one he trusted above all others. Brutus delivered the fatal blow while locking eyes with Caesar. Could Caesar have foreseen this betrayal? Maybe. Perhaps he knew and chose to ignore it. That was his fatal flaw. The moment you believe your own legend, that loyalty is assured and you're untouchable, you've already sealed your fate. Machiavelli would have warned him, never sleep in the same room twice, never eat from the same plate, never trust the man who calls you father. But by then, it was too late. Now fast forward to today's wielders of modern power: Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Putin, Xi Jinping, Biden, Trump. It doesn't matter where they stand ideologically or geographically. The template remains identical: isolation, controlled access, tiers of gatekeepers. Why? Because every interaction carries risk. Each conversation might lead to exposure. Every bond could transform into a liability down the line. Think they're paranoid? Good. Paranoia is the unavoidable toll for retaining power at the top. Wonder if they're lonely? Most likely, but loneliness is the cost of sovereignty. To rule effectively means ruling alone. If friendship is what you desire, drop your crown. It's simple math. Here's the revelation no one shares. The loneliness isn't forced upon them. It's chosen. They make that choice deliberately, knowing solitude is the true price of unrivaled authority. This isn't tragedy. This is strategy. It's the fortress you've built, even as you ask yourself, but at what cost? The emotional toll, the isolation, the sleepless nights, the paranoia, all of it, yes. But here's the harsh reality. Power doesn't care about your mental well-being. It doesn't care about your happiness. It only cares whether you're effective, whether you're in control, and unpredictable enough that no one dares challenge you. Happiness, that's for the middle class, for those who clock out at 5 p.m., hug their kids, and leave work behind. Power? Power is a 24/7 war. And in war, there's no room for softness, openness, or being understood. There's only room to be feared, respected, obeyed, alone. And here lies the paradox. The more isolated you are, the more powerful you become. Solitude sharpens clarity. Distance fosters objectivity. Silence breeds control. Without opinions clouding your vision or emotions anchoring your decisions, you see the game board for what it truly is. You act with precision, cold and calculated. You stop chasing popularity and start building legacy, survival, dominance. That's why kings don't have confidants. Generals keep their battle plans far from dinner conversations. Billionaires don't share unfiltered thoughts on social media. They understand the game. Every word is a weapon. Every silence, a shield. And here's the truth few reveal. The most powerful people aren't alone because they failed at relationships. They're alone because they mastered strategy. Their fortresses aren't made of stone. They're constructed from silence, discipline, and ruthless prioritization. They know every bond becomes a potential breach in their defenses, so they let no one in. Not fully, not ever. This isn't weakness, it's ultimate strength. The strength to choose isolation over vulnerability, control over comfort, survival over everything else. Cold? Yes. But betrayal is colder still. So is the grave. So is watching a trusted ally sell your secrets to your enemy for a better deal. Look around. How many leaders endure? How many CEOs stay in power? How many politicians exit on their own terms? Very few. The ones who last are the ones who learned early. Trust is dangerous. Vigilance is essential, and walls aren't there to block the world out. They're there to keep power locked within. Machiavelli didn't just describe this mindset, he prescribed it. He didn't tell you to be cruel, he told you to be smart. He didn't suggest being hated, he advised being feared, knowing that fear outlives love. He didn't say embrace loneliness, he said be untouchable. And untouchability comes from being unreachable, unreadable, unpredictable, and ultimately alone. If you still think power stems from connections, influence, or networks, think again. True power is about subtraction, removing variables, eliminating threats, even the ones that appear harmless, especially the ones that appear harmless. True friendships? They never truly had them, not in the way you imagine. What they gather are allies, tools, assets, not friends. Because friends are liabilities, and at the highest levels, liabilities are not gathered. They're eradicated. The fortress isn't built to keep the world out. It's designed to trap power within. Its foundation is sealed with silence, distance, and the sheer resolve to embrace solitude, even when the world cries out for them to descend from their heights. Even when their own hearts yearn for connection. Even when exhaustion takes hold, when fear creeps in, when their humanity aches for recognition. But power doesn't care about humanity. It only cares about control, and control is a solitary endeavor. Ask yourself, do you desire love or do you desire power? Because at the summit, you can't truly have both and endure. Machiavelli understood it. History confirms it. Every individual who remains at the top lives it daily, alone, silent, untouched, impenetrable. This isn't a warning, it's a choice set before you, a call to clarity to construct your own fortress. Not out of fear, but out of strategy, with eyes wide open to the reality that power doesn't favor the charismatic or the approachable. It favors those who are untouchable and inscrutable. If you're prepared for that level of readiness, for that kind of existence, then welcome to the real game. The one played in silence and one without camaraderie, but through the impenetrability of a fortress designed for power and survival alone.